Hi submarine friends, welcome back to watching me build my diesel electric submarine. So today's project is to remove this air manifold system and reseal it because I've got a couple of small teeny tiny little bubbly leaks coming from when I air test it. So I'm just going to show you how I do that. Just got to tighten this guy up. Isn't that swing away seat system nice? Boy, I really just love that. And then the seat just slides on it, so it's right out of the way. So anyways, the way this works. So this is my control panel that sits on my lap while I'm diving or cruising on the surface area. Not while I'm diving, sorry, while I'm cruising on the surface. When I'm diving and I'm on the bottom, I can either use this, because this switch here is left thruster, right thruster, but it's also going to have the same control sitting up at the front window, because typically I sit right up front and I drive the submarine from there. So this switch right here, that is my electric onboard air compressor. You can hear it leaking here because it's not tight. But anyway, so I put all this in expecting to take it out and do it all up nice, because you know, a lot of this stuff you don't know if it's going to be permanent. So I'll just dump that air that leaked out, or that's in the system. So the way that it works is there's an electric onboard compressor, like I just said, and that air comes in right here. If I open these two valves, that air goes right through into this line on the opposite end, down and to the back of the hull. And from there, it goes to the very back of the submarine. And when you look at this sub, you'll see two torpedo type tanks on the very back of the submarine. They're half sunk into the ballast tank. Those are my air holding tanks. So I pressurize those tanks to the maximum capacity of this electric compressor, which is 160 psi. But I don't know if I believe that, so I'm counting on 150 psi. So then I just close that off, this valve, so that air is trapped in those tanks and actually potentially never gets used. It just sits there as a backup. So the way the system works for this submarine is this here valve that isolates this whole system. So what I can do when I want to surface, I turn on. I don't want to turn it on now because the pump doesn't have water in it. But one of these switches turns on an electric pump that takes water from the variable ballast tank, which is a bladder underneath where I'm sitting, and it pumps that water overboard, and it goes out right here. No, it comes in here, goes out here. So that will make the submarine light because it's getting rid of weight out of the submarine. So after, you know, a liter of water is gone, the submarine will start to surface. So I'll pump it out enough so that, you know, maybe a couple of gallons of water is out. Then when that water is gone, the submarine comes to the surface enough that I can open a vent valve in the hatch. So that will allow air to come into the submarine. I may even put a short snorkel on it, so if there's any little bit of waves and stuff, then I don't have to worry about it. Plus, I can continue to pump this ballast bag out, so it comes higher and higher. And when the ballast bag is empty, the submarine level is, you know, right here at the top of the hull. It's the main ballast tanks at each end that lift it that last 8 inches. So I get to the surface, I open that vent valve up top, then I turn the air compressor on, and I simply open these two valves. This is the rear ballast tank, this is the forward ballast tank. So this valve has to be open, which allows, and this will always stay open. I don't ever have to close this unless I'm doing something weird. But this valve stays open because there's a check valve on the compressor that I installed, like a 6,000 psi stainless steel check valve. So the air, the air from here to that compressor is trapped. So the air comes in here, I open this valve, I turn the compressor on, and it draws air from outside and pumps it into those two ballast tanks. And I can control which ballast tank. So if my nose is coming up slower, I can close the back one, leave the front one open. And it doesn't take that long because the compressor is not working hard. It puts out 10 cubic feet per minute at like 5 psi or whatever. So it doesn't take long, and the whole submarine is surfaced, and I haven't used my reserve air. Now let's say I need to surface quickly. Well, that's no problem. Let's say there's smoke in here, or there's some reason I have to surface really quickly, and I'm at the bottom of the lake, no problem. I turn on the pump, boom, water's going out. Same time, I open this valve, and that lets the air tank air in. Open these two guys, and they're full blast getting the air pressure from the air holding tanks, and then the submarine comes up like a missile, like they really come up fast. Well, they don't come up like they do in the movies, but they come up pretty hard. The problem is this thing doesn't move fast through the water. Even if you put 1,000 horsepower on this, it's not going to move fast through the water. So it'll only come up as fast as the hydrodynamics allow it to. So that's how it works. So now I'm going to remove this guy so that I can put it on the bench and take it all apart leisurely, comfortably, and put it all together with new thread tape and make sure that it's going to be good for the next 20 years. That's my projected life that I'm going to use the sub, because by then I'll be dead. So I'm going to do this guy here. What size is he? Come on. It's a little bit over 5/8. I want to get rod 11/16, so I'll use this. So just remove this. So the other thing that I did yesterday, I made a video putting the engine in and hooking it all up, but I'm getting some complaints that my audio is very poor and people can't hear me, so I've ordered a mic that just clips on my shirt. So that'll solve that problem, but in the meantime, I'm not going to post that video because I don't want to piss everybody off with bad audio. So what I'm going to do once I take this manifold out, which is going to take me another minute, I'm going to go out and I'm going to show you the results of putting the engine in. It looks pretty darn nice. So just got to take this guy off. Oh boy. There we are. This is a pretty good design that I have here because it's just these two fittings actually hold the whole manifold in. See that? So when it's out like this, it's obviously very easy to work on. Now I won't put these in on the bench because they hold it in. So let's go have a look at that engine install. It looks pretty nice. Okay, well I'm going to speak up a little bit so that you guys can hear me without a mic. So you'll have to bear with me on this part. But anyways, check that out. Isn't that nice? I put an interior light in there. It's just on magnets, same as inside the sub. So I can unclick it, like just pop the magnets off, and I can put it anywhere inside the sub, but that really lights it up nicely, doesn't it? So what I did, I've got all new hoses on the water-cooled exhaust. So that's all brand new. I didn't get new hoses for the engine, these two short hoses, because I forgot. What can I say? So I'll pick those up. It's all full of coolant again. It's ready to run right now. You could put it in the lake and go dive with it right now. So I also hooked up the wiring to the oil pressure sending unit to have an alarm. The water temperature sensor is also going to be on the alarm, like I said before. Exhaust is all hooked up, ready to go. Hydraulics are all hooked up, and I had to make a plastic piece that holds the hoses together but stops the hoses from rubbing on the side of the tank. I made a video about that too, but the audio is so bad. So anyways, that's in there. Hydraulics are all hooked up. Right here I've got a paper towel plugging this hole, but that's where the oil feed goes from the hydraulic tank. I just put a hydraulic hose on here. That's the pressure side coming out. I put the hose on so no dirt can go in there. I'm really quite careful with hydraulics not to get any dirt in there. And same with thread tape. I use it very careful so the thread tape isn't over the end of the line, because you don't want that going into the system. So we're ready to rock and roll here. So all I need now is some nice warm weather. We've been having a crazy warm winter, but when it warms up some more, I can take the whole submarine and this and move it back into my big shop, which is my fabrication shop. It's not heated, that's the problem. And so then I'll put this all in. So I'm just going to set this aside now so I can move the submarine away from the wall, because I want to get a deck made for it. And I've got some other stuff to do on the outside, like some vent valves, and it's a real pity I can't open the hatch. If I could open the hatch in here, I could put this engine in place, and I wouldn't be able to weld it all up in here, but I could hook everything up, and then when it moves to the big shop, I just have to weld it on. But I can't. I would have to cut a hole in my kitchen floor upstairs to open that hatch. And my wife is super accommodating, but I don't think she's that accommodating. So anyways, that's it for today. Ciao.